Well, hello. My name is Dr. Yvonne Murray Laria, and I am the founding president of GCScore. I'm also an associate professor and department chair at Indiana University South Bend's Counseling and Human Services Department, School of Education. Today, we're going to talk about building social emotional capacity in university students, the CSS way. We're going to learn about this today and how this relates to you, university students. We're also going to learn who is GCScored, what it stands for. I'm going to teach you today how to become a conscious problem solver. I'm going to teach you the 5 steps to becoming an empowered life coach, the definition of social emotional wellness, and the RUMERTIME process. And we're going to give you some hands-on skills to leave with so that you can rumorize your way through this new milestone in your life. Okay, so let's get started. So GCScored. What does GCScored stand for? GCScored stands for the Global Center for Systemic Change, Outcome, Research, Evaluation, and Development. What is our purpose? Our purpose is to build relational capacity in individuals, families, organizations, and communities. Our mission is to renew minds, transform lives, and create safer communities. Why should you or anyone else look to GCScored for products and services? Well, because at GCScored, we help you to become a conscious problem solver and an empowered life coach. That is our why statement. Our vision is that individuals of all ages living their best lives in resilient settings and societies where all individuals, institutions, and communities are fully engaged and where every piece matters. Okay, so that's our vision. And then we have 2 goals. Our number 1 goal is to increase access to the culturally responsive, destigmatized, and demystified problem-solving strategy known as the RUMERTIME process, which you will hear more about shortly, so that individuals in diverse settings locally and globally can become conscious problem solvers, empowered life coaches as they acquire healthy social emotional markers. Okay, so that's our goal number 1. If you were to remember any word in that statement that I read you, our goal statement number 1, the word that I want you to remember is access. Now, our number 2 goal is to educate, equip, and empower individuals so that they can effectively utilize social emotional competencies as they renew their minds, transform their lives, and create safer communities. That's our number 2 goal. If you are to remember any words in the number 2 goal, they are to educate, equip, and empower. So our number 1 goal is to increase access. Our number 2 goal is to educate, equip, and empower. And so that's our purpose, mission, why statement, vision, and goals. Here are the links to all our websites. I'll leave it up a little bit so that you can take a picture if you like. Moving right along. Social emotional wellness impacts us all. And so here's a statement, a quote that I have coined. As air is to life, so are social emotional competencies to relationships. They are like the air we breathe. We do not have life without air. You stop the air, you stop life. You cannot have healthy relationships without social emotional competency. You stop practicing social emotional competencies, you stop having healthy relationships. No air, no life. No social emotional competencies, unhealthy relationships. And these are relationships with one's self, with family, friends, colleagues, co-workers, classmates, instructors, and any other social interaction. You need social emotional competencies in order to have healthy relationships. They are like the air we breathe. Moving right along. Here's this graphic that is entitled Roots and Fruits of Social Emotional Wellness. At the root, you will see 5 circles, right? We consider those to be seeds. At the root level, there are the self-awareness skills, self-management skills, social awareness skills, responsible decision-making skills, and relationship management skills. These are the 5 core social emotional competencies. Out of these 5 social emotional competencies, whether you are a child, a tween, youth, or an adult, many of you are within that stage, early adulthood, beginning a new phase of your development, which is university, home, school, community, and work. These 5 social emotional competencies at the root level of this tree are used in all of these different settings, as we said, diverse settings. And so at home, you're using these skills. At school, you will be using these skills. In the communities that you are embedded in, you will be using these skills. When you go to work, if you're working on campus, off campus, or wherever you go, if you're working anywhere, you're going to need these skills. And what do these skills, these 5 social emotional skills, help to do? What type of fruits do they produce? So it depends now on how the seeds are nurtured, how the soil in which the seeds are planted are nurtured or fertilized. And so out of these, if you have these social emotional competencies or skills, there's no formula, but if you have them in healthy amounts, you will see academic growth, you will see physical growth, you will see psychological growth, you will experience relational growth, cognitive, spiritual, professional and career and personal growth. These are just a few of the fruits that you will be able to pick or be able to use when you have these 5 social emotional skills being planted, nurtured, fertilized, watered within a healthy balancing act. So what is social emotional competence? So social emotional competence is a person's ability to recognize and understand, which fall under the self-awareness skills. A person's ability to manage, this is where we have the self-management skills and relationship management skills. Then a person's ability to express, this is where we have social awareness skills, where you are able to show empathy, be kind, compassionate. And then social emotional competence is your ability to reflect. And where we have reflect aligned with is responsible decision making, making choices in a responsible manner by reflecting. And there's a statement that I've coined. It says, in order to be effective, you must be reflective. So social emotional competence is a person's ability to recognize, understand, manage, express, and reflect on their thoughts, interactions, mindsets, and emotions as it relates to self, others, and situations. If you notice, all the letters in red form the word RUMERTIME. RUMERTIME. Effectively utilizing these competencies helps to educate, equip, and empower individuals of all ages, stages, locations to successfully navigate daily living activities such as loving, learning, earning, relationship building, problem solving, and adapting to the demands of growth and development. So this is what social emotional competence is. It's your ability to use the social emotional skills, your ability to recognize and understand and manage and express and reflect. So here are some of the benefits of developing or acquiring social emotional skills. As an individual, you will be able to build empathy. It helps to create contentment. You start having better relationships. Better relationships and contentment and empathy don't just fall out of the sky. These things have to be acquired intentionally, purposefully. You want to have a clearer life purpose, acquire these social emotional competencies, gain an understanding of how to rumorize. It will help you as an individual at home or in your dormitory room or in your apartment with your apartment mates. You will see that you're becoming kinder, more helpful. You do not want to have a bunch of drama, and so you like your relationships are healthy and more peaceful, and you're more open. You're more open to feedback. You're more open to being supportive to others without feeling intimidated or without feeling judged or without feeling insecure. All right. So at school, the benefits of acquiring these 5 social emotional competencies is at school, you're going to see your academic performance enhanced. There's going to be less bullying. And yes, you may think, well, we're in college, we're at the university, we don't bully. Yes, you do. Okay. It is done even in the workplaces. It is done across the board. And the reason is when people don't feel good about themselves, they try to make other people experience their own pain. And so they project, and that sometimes comes off as bullying. All right. So at school, you will find an increased attendance rate, and you will see that you will have what we call persistence and tenacity to complete what you started. Let's go to workplaces. How does having social emotional competencies or skills show up at work? Your performance will become better. You'll be more collaborative. You will start, your creative juices will be flowing. You'll be open to making mistakes because knowing that in making the mistakes, you are becoming more innovative and more productive. Showing up to work on time, doing an excellent job, that shows up at work as work ethic. In your community, how does having social emotional competencies show up in your community? You will see if everyone in the community starts acquiring these skills, you will see a reduction in crime and violence. There will be more social cohesion. You become more socially conscious or socially aware and want to bring about change in your community. Help those who are not as privileged as you are. And then it's going to increase community engagement, positive community engagement. So these are some of the benefits, just some of the benefits of acquiring social emotional competencies as an individual in your home setting or your dormitory setting, school, work, and in the community. So what's the RUMERTIME process? The RUMERTIME process then is a 5-step, culturally responsive, social emotional wellness strategy that uses problem solving as its main approach or intervention when you're working intrapersonally and interpersonally. It helps you to move from imbalance to balance and from unconscious living to conscious living. So the RUMERTIME process is a 5-step, culturally responsive, social emotional problem-solving strategy that helps individuals of all ages, stages, races, locations to move from a position of intra and interpersonal imbalance to intra and interpersonal balance, and from unconscious living to conscious living. And so that's our definition of the RUMERTIME process. These are the elements. We talked about that in the definition earlier. Recognize, understand, manage, express, and reflect on your thoughts, your interactions, your mindsets, and emotions. So whenever you're faced with anything in life, whether it's a positive experience or not so positive experience or a negative experience or an adverse experience, you are engaging in this RUMERTIME process, whether you are conscious of it or not. But this is the process that you are engaging in, and we want you to move it from an unconscious space to a conscious space, and from an ill-structured or unorganized or disorganized way of problem solving to an organized and structured way of problem solving. Social emotional skills in your daily life. So here are some of the questions that go along with each of those social emotional competencies that we talked. Each of the 5 social emotional competencies. So let's look at self-awareness. Self-awareness involves recognizing who are you, why am I here, what am I good at, what do I like, what do I believe. These questions seem quite elementary. They are foundational, but if I were to ask you this one question, who are you? It requires some major reflection and deep thinking. And we need to know the answers to these questions before we can go any further in rumerizing, in problem solving, in managing. So self-awareness comes with its questions and is aligned with recognizing and understanding. Then we have self-management. And some of the questions there could be, how can I control my thinking and my feelings so I can become my best self? What can I do to not get in my own way? Then we're going to go to relationship management. What do I need to do so that I can become a better friend? How can I have less arguments and fights with people? Then we're moving on to social awareness or expressing. How can I show kindness? How can I be thoughtful? How can I help others? And last but not least, responsible decision making or reflecting. How can I make better choices? How do I always end up in these situations? So you always want to think about recognizing and understanding my time. Remember, time is your thoughts, your interactions, your mindsets, and your emotions. How do I manage my time? How do I express my time? How do I reflect my time? So the process of rumerizing is, as you reflect upon a triggering event, and triggering events do not only have to be negative. How do I make clear-headed assessments of benefits and drawbacks to your involvement with identified triggering events? It is in reflecting that your social emotional skills are actuated. As you practice these skills daily with any life situation, whether it has to do with yourself, with others, and other situations, it can promote your development as you become socially and emotionally competent. Rumerizing in action. Recognizing, understanding, managing, expressing, and reflecting on the triggering event you consider to be rumerizing. You become self-aware as you rumerize your thoughts, your interactions, mindsets, and emotions. As you move through the 5-step process, rumor, you can discover ways to productively handle and appropriately externalize your time. This facilitates your growth and development in the areas of inter and intrapersonal relationships. So we've come to the convergence of crises. We are facing major challenges globally. The pandemic has reconfigured what school is and looks like. It has exposed many digital divides. It has put pressure on relationships and logistics. Another thing that the pandemic has done is expose communities, societies that are resource sufficient and or resource insufficient. Then we see an increase in mental health challenges such as depression, anxiety, suicide, and many other challenges that people are experiencing. Trauma and crises. There's an increase in domestic violence, child abuse, hunger. All of these crises have been exacerbated by COVID. Death and dying and isolation, confusion, all of these things, relationship issues. Then there's the work-school life balance. Individuals are stressed out. We don't know if you're going to have to go back home or what you're going to have to do when there's a lockdown again. How do you manage your stress and how do you manage your time? Then we have economic challenges, job losses, campus work-study losses. Then people are at spiritual crossroads, questioning your spiritual beliefs, traditions, and practices. So what is your time during the convergence of crises? What are your thoughts? What are you thinking about? Then you ask yourself, what are your interactions? How are you behaving differently? What are some of the activities you're engaging in that you may not have engaged in pre-pandemic? What are some of the activities that you have been engaging in during the pandemic? What are your thoughts now about this? What are your mindsets? What type of attitude do you have? How are you seeing the world now that you have lived through and living through a pandemic with unending variants? Currently, the Delta variant is blowing up exponentially. So what are your mindsets? How do you see the world now, right? And then what are your emotions and your feelings during this time? So common thoughts. What are some of the common thoughts associated with convergence of crises? And how we defined it top of the presentation, I talked about building social emotional capacity in university students, the CSS way. CSS stands for Cultivating Seeds System. And so in our framework, we define thoughts as ideas or pictures that you have in your mind. Thoughts are at the root of behaviors, attitudes, and emotions. So what are you thinking in these times? I want you to ask yourself that question. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking? And the definition here is that thoughts are ideas or pictures you have in your mind. So I want you to spend some time, take some notes, write down, what are you thinking in these times? We have a principle. It's principle number 3 in our 12 principles. Influencers plus thoughts equal destiny. Your thinking determines your destiny. What are you choosing to influence your thoughts and your destiny? Again, those are questions that you have to start thinking about and start answering as you embark on this new chapter of your life. What are you thinking about? Again, common thoughts associated with, and fill in the blank. Maybe common thoughts associated with virtual instruction, common thoughts associated with whatever it is you want to fill in there. And what are you thinking about it right now? Common interactions associated with convergence of crises. Behaviors, interactions, another word for interactions, behaviors. Behaviors are influenced by what you were thinking. So what are some behaviors that you notice you have started doing during or since the convergence of crises in your life? And it doesn't have to be something major. It could be, now I'm sitting on my bed more often than I normally did at the beginning of the pandemic. I want you to be reflective. I want you to be very introspective. These are the ways that you're going to move from unconscious living to conscious living so that you can have a better control or a better handle on how you live your life. So, common interactions associated with you fill in the blank. So behaviors are influenced by what you were thinking. So what are some behaviors or interactions that you notice you have started doing since fill in the blank? Okay, so these are the skills and tools I want you to take with you and practice them. So here's another belief, another principle, principle number 5 on our 12 principles. Beliefs influence behaviors. What are your beliefs about the population you work with, learn with, live with, play with? What are your beliefs about them? Culture begins with beliefs and finds expression in behaviors. Your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values become your destiny. Recognizing your beliefs, because beliefs influence behaviors. What are common mindsets associated with convergence of crises? Attitudes and mindsets, worldview, lens, framework, filter. All of these help us to come up with a mindset or an attitude, and they are formed as a result of persistent, dominant, and recurring thoughts. What has been your attitude during these times? So common mindsets associated with, again, fill in the blank. And the definition that we use, attitudes are formed as a result of persistent, dominant, and recurring thoughts. What's been your attitude or mindset during filling the blank? These are the practical tools that I told you about earlier to help you become a conscious problem solver. You use this intentionally and regularly, and I guarantee you, you will see yourself becoming a better version of you. Emotions, common emotions associated with convergence of crises. Feelings have no intellect. They are directly controlled by your thinking patterns. So what have you been feeling during these times? And I know a lot of people, it's always easy to talk about your feelings. And so here's your opportunity. What have you been feeling during these times, these COVIDious times? Common emotions associated with fill in the blank. Feelings have no intellect. They are directly controlled by your thinking patterns. So what have you been feeling during fill in the blank? And so what I want you to do, what I want all of you to do, come up with your story. What is your story that you want to rumorize? What is your story that you would like to rumorize? And follow each step. What we have done today is just the first R, which is recognize your time. All we did today was recognizing your time. What is your time in light of fill in the blank? I want you to think of a story, think of a situation that you're in right now. We call those stories because everybody has a story. We all have multiple stories. stories. A story doesn't have to be something complex. It could be as simple as, when I woke up this morning, I was really grateful, or today is registration, or there is freshman orientation today and I don't know how I feel about it. Any of those things, any of those stories or situations or thoughts in your mind evolve into stories. And so what are you thinking about it? Choose a story and rumorize it. And all you're doing right now is recognizing your thoughts, interactions, mindsets, and emotions about your situation. So I want you to practice, and I want your student leaders to let me know what some of the outcomes of these freshmen practicing the RUMERTIME process. And so here is the Cultivating Seed System framework. We're not going to go into that, but I just want to give you a visual of where that RUMERTIME process came from. This is a framework, the Cultivating Seed System framework that I developed. Here is the 5-step RUMERTIME process. These are ways that you can contact us at GCScore. I will leave this up for a few seconds. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and I really would like you to commit to rumerizing from this day forward, using the RUMERTIME process to help you become a conscious problem solver and your own life coach. Whenever you feel like things are becoming overwhelming, I want you to pull out some paper and pencil or blog it on the 5-step process of problem solving the CSS way. Thank you and God bless.